I'm talking today about true healing. There's an old truism that says that happy people rarely get sick. Some of us know people who have fallen ill almost immediately after some tragic loss. Haven't you seen that? Where they lose a person in their lives, or they lose a lot of money, their stocks go down, or whatever, some great loss, some great disappointment in their life, and they get sick. Is this a coincidence? Or is this the way it really happens? Is this really the cause of sickness? Disease is the generic term for a lot of serious illnesses. However, we metaphysicians would use the word, let's make it 2 words, because that's what we like to do in metaphysics, dis-ease. Dis-ease describes symptoms, doesn't it? Disease is not really a thing in itself. It's a lack of ease in the mind. And even as I say this, I can hear most people say, "Now, come on, disease is real. I mean, we experience it. There are serious diseases that people die from." So we're not talking about, though, disease in itself is not anything. It is the experience that we're talking about. But let's take the word arthritis, for example. We've been taught that arthritis is a very serious disease in itself with certain symptoms that are always present. But medical authorities are now knowing or seeing that arthritis is an outpicturing of multiple systems that have gone wrong in the body. So it's not a disease in itself. I read somewhere that there are 100 different symptoms of arthritis. And since the belief that there is no cure of this disease, all medicine does then is relieve the symptoms. So that's a given. And those drugs, of course, eventually take their toll on the body over time if you deal with them for a long time. So those in the mind-body field know and understand, though, when things go wrong in the body, it's because something first goes wrong in our thinking, in our minds, and then in our feelings, of course, because that's the way it goes. Something goes wrong in the body that echoes our repetitious, worrisome thoughts and words, and then feelings, results, and whatever. Many times we have negative feelings about ourselves, and we don't like to express them, or we think we shouldn't express them. And so we wind up maybe not even dealing with them at all. We just kind of choke them back and forget about them if we can. And sometimes we do seem to forget about them consciously. But there's a part of our mind that never forgets anything. That's our subconscious mind. It never forgets anything that we've ever thought or experienced. It draws conclusions from it. And sometimes, though, if those feelings aren't dealt with, they express themselves on our bodies as disease, as symptoms of disease. Dealing with the ups and downs of life rather than falling apart because of them is how we can eventually come to true healing. So true healing is what I decided to talk about today. Because, we're all worried, or maybe concerned, I should say, about our health. We like to support our health. We like to be healthier. So we need to talk about our health and how to deal with it metaphysically. So what do I mean by true healing? True healing happens when not only the symptoms disappear, but the cause for the problem disappears. Because, we can get rid of a lot of the symptoms, but we're not healed unless the cause of the disease is healed. Most people today use medicine and its adjuncts for healing, but medicine doesn't heal. For the most part, it just deals or quiets the symptoms. And that's the good part of it. We need that because we can't live in peace if we're in pain. And Dr. Holmes says nobody has learned very much through pain. So we need to take care of the symptoms. But the good part of it is some of those symptoms will disappear for a while. But drugs never remove the underlying cause of disease, and they cannot do that. They cannot, because all cause resides in consciousness, in our consciousness, in the infinite consciousness. So take the drugs and the symptoms will go away. And your doctor, though, may tell you that it's fine for now, but those symptoms may recur. They could come back. And they may tell you that your disease is caused by all kinds of things. We have a lot of, your gene pool is, look at your gene pool. It's not very promising. Or your immune system is depressed. Or environmental pollution is causing a lot of these things today, they say. And I imagine they think that causes arthritis too. Or you may lack some mineral or vitamin, something in your system. So it's a rare doctor who will tell you that your mind created your disease. Has anyone experienced that? Your mind created. No. Mm-mm. They might tell you that your worrisome symptoms are all in your mind and then give you a drug to relieve your mind. I think we know what those are, don't we? Some alternative practitioners work a little bit more closely to what we teach. Some of them do deal with energy and vibration and all kinds of things. Some work with herbs and natural remedies that do a better job really with the symptoms than some medicine because they have fewer side effects than the pharmaceuticals. And this is good. But you know what? We're still working with effects. We're working with effects rather than cause. So metaphysicians have taught for centuries that consciousness creates effects. We are creating every effect that we experience. Now, whether we know this or not, a few people in the medical establishment are beginning to see this truth, and they're doing some wonderful work and some wonderful experiments that bear out what we metaphysicians have believed for centuries. And they can do this because now they have all kinds of machines that can measure your thoughts and measure the activity of thought and meditation on different portions of your brain. But do you know what I'm saying here, though? That thought affects your brain. So the brain is not your thinking tool. It is the receiver and the sender. It's acted upon even by thought. So now, it's actually a very exciting time because more and more and more, the medical establishment, especially on the frontiers, are supporting what we have believed and taught for years. But they're still out there on the borders, The metaphysicians have moved into the center, and now we're living right there where we know that cause is mind. We've had to put up with a lot of ridicule, though, haven't we? I've been a metaphysician for most of my life, but I remember one time I was in a room. We were getting ready for a wedding in Beverly Hills, and I had met this new person and was just becoming a friend, but somebody told her, Joan is a Christian Scientist. She believes in spiritual healing. And this new friend turned and looked. She says, ooh. She says, I believe in miracles, that God sometimes sets aside his law and does something good, but spiritual healing, that's just too incredible for words. And I think she really lost respect for my intelligence there for a while, because she looked at me, and when I would say something, she would look kind of like I was half cracked for a while. But one day, not too long ago, she asked me, her dog that she loved very much had a serious problem, and she had not gotten any satisfaction through medicine, and she asked me to pray for her dog, and I did, and that dog got well. So she finally acknowledged that spiritual healing worked, at least in her case. So true healing, then, is removing the dis from disease. And setting consciousness at ease. That's what it's all about. We're restoring peace to our mind. When you've had a healing, you feel at peace, don't you? You're not worried anymore. The fear is gone. So when we get at ease in our minds, usually we get well. When we're at peace, we're well. So what is the dis part of this ease? The dis-ease, the dis of in almost every case, is the stuff we call stress. Stress is the dis part, isn't it? Stress is what happens when we attempt to cope with the issues in our life, what's going on in our world. And if we feel that we don't have the ability to cope with these issues, we become afraid. We get frightened by our lives. We start to think about what's going to happen. And that speculation leads to all kinds of fear, doesn't it? What if we lose our job? What if we can't pay our bills? What if I never get out of this? What if this gets worse? That's the fear, isn't it? Always. What will happen? What's going to happen? And then we get very nervous and upset. And you can see that the basis of all of the dis is stress and fear, the fear of not being able to cope. So if we don't have anything else to rely on other than, let's say, tranquilizers to restore the peace, then this thing called stress may eventually express on the body, because tranquilizers too, we know, just quiet. They kind of dull you down so you're not so afraid, but they don't do anything to take away your fear. They just help you kind of float through it. Now, everybody has to cope with life, don't they? Every single one of us has to cope with the issues. But everyone doesn't get sick from coping with the issues of life. Most likely, people who don't get sick have found ways to restore their peace of mind, even while they're attempting to cope with some of the most stressful things. They learn how to deal with it. And, of course, we know a lot of good ways to deal with stress, which is meditation, that we do here before the service begins. I do it twice a day sometimes, most of the time at least once. But we find ways of coping with the stress that we're undergoing. Now, the science of mind furnishes us with the spiritual tools with which to cope with the issues of life through spiritual mind treatment, prayer, meditation, affirmations, all of these things, and realizing that you are creating your life, and you are the cause to all of these things that are going on in your life. So if we deal with these things when they happen, when we start to feel stressful, we deal with it, then we keep them from making that final expression on the body, because we're dealing with them right where they start. So when we understand that our thoughts are creative, and especially fearful ones are creative, aren't they? We will catch ourselves in the act of producing them and then do something about them, reverse them. One of the easiest things to do when you're in fear, you think there's a specific fearful thought, isn't there? Reverse that and see the truth of it. And that will stop it in its tracks. It will keep it from expressing on your body. Phineas Parkhurst Quimby, the father of New Thought, and I refer to him quite often because he did these amazing experiments that finally revealed how much our thought affects our lives. He said that mind is liquid substance. Now it's something that almost anyone can understand. Mind or thoughts are liquid. They haven't taken shape in concrete experiences yet, but so mind uses your thought as a mold. Now, whatever quality of thought you're thinking, it is a mold for some experience, and mind pours itself through it as substance and then becomes the experience. So if you reverse those truths right away, you're heading off a potential disease or a potential symptom of a disease, before it settles down into your body. But you know what? We live in a world that for the most part believes that we're all victims, don't we? I'd say people outside this room mostly believe that they're just victims of life. Things happen to them. And if we believe that there's nothing we can do about our life experiences, about the bad things especially, then we live life as a victim. Things happen to you instead of through you, as we say in metaphysics, because if it happens through our thought, it happens through us. So, of course, this is all a belief, but if you consider yourself a victim, then you're letting yourself off the hook. You're letting yourself off responsibility for having anything to do with those things that happen, and you're also giving away your power when you do that. Because if you're the creator, you know that you can create something better. Victims think that people just get diseases, and if the doctor can cure it, you're fortunate. But they also think that if the doctor can't do anything about it, well, you're just unfortunate. That's just the way it is. I remember a Barbara Walters interview with Patrick Swayze when he was very, very ill. And she asked him if he had tried any alternative means of healing. And he said no. He says, if the doctor can't do it, I'm done for. So he too was a victim of this very materialistic thinking that we're just matter beings, that everything happens to, not through us, and we play no part in getting sick or we play no part in getting well. It's a very sad situation to be in, isn't it, when you think that everything happens to you.